In 1975, Travis Walton, a logger from Snowflake, Arizona, disappeared without a trace. 5 friends who were with Walton when he vanished swore that he'd been abducted by an alien spacecraft. Each witness passed a lie detector test telling the same story. The reported abduction is one of the most well-documented claims of an alien encounter on record. Travis Walton's alleged abduction from an Arizona logging camp is now a motion picture titled Fire in the Sky. The dramatic details of Walton's story are unnatural for adaptation to the big screen. But ufologists believe that Walton's experience is more than just a story. They believe it is a true account of alien abduction.
We have a saying here, once a contactee or once a witness, it's always so, because it's an event that you will never forget.
Are aliens with sinister motives abducting humans for bizarre experimentation? Travis Walton believes that's what happened to him. Sightings took an emotionally scarred Walton and eyewitness Mike Rogers back to the site of the alleged abduction 17 years before.
As we're coming up this road here, we could kind of see a light filtering through the trees. My first reflex was that this thing was just going to take right off, you know, that we were just going to get a glimpse of this thing. So just as soon as it stopped, I threw open the door and I started running towards it. And then I realized, you know, this ain't going anywhere. I started to think twice about what I was doing, and as I got closer, I kind of got slower and slower.
I turned back around like this, and I could see Walton. He's flying backwards through the air. And when he hit the ground, when I saw that happen, everything was just too much, and I hit the gas, and we were gone.
When I regained consciousness, I was in a lot of pain. I saw these creatures. They were small, humanoid looking, you know, like they had 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes, but they had these big bulging heads and these huge eyes. Those eyes were the hardest thing for me. You know, I couldn't look at them. It seemed like they were looking right through me.
Screenwriter Tracy Torme has spent 8 years bringing this abduction story to the screen. He is convinced that Travis Walton and his fellow loggers are telling the truth.
I suddenly came to realize that this incident was a curse to them. It was something that had happened to them rather than some kind of happy, you know, close encounter type of experience.
Since Travis Walton's experience, hundreds of others have come forward to tell similar stories. They share with Walton the nagging fear that someday the aliens will come back for them.
The question has come on, do we think Travis will have a second encounter? We have no way of predicting that. We don't consider this case closed. It's still open.
One of the most controversial aspects of the UFO phenomenon and its effect on our society are claims of interaction with UFO occupants and tales of being abducted by aliens. Perhaps the most convincing testimony comes from Travis Walton of Snowflake, Arizona.
This was on November 5th, 1975. I was working with a crew of men in the woods, and we left the area. We'd worked late that night. It was getting dark. And as we were leaving down this dirt road way back in the woods, we saw a large glowing object near the road. Well, we stopped the truck and I got out, went up to it for a closer look. I thought that this thing was just going to shoot right off, and then, you know, I hurried towards it thinking, you know, it'll be gone before I even get close enough to see it that well. But it didn't leave. It started to move and the sound got louder. So I jumped down behind the end of a log there, and I decided I better get out of there. And I raised up, turned to go, and at that instant I just felt a numbing shock. I blacked out. Men in the truck said they saw a beam of energy come out of the craft and hit me in the upper body, knocked me through the air. When I regained consciousness, I was on board the craft, apparently. I came to kind of slowly. I was kind of groggy. I didn't regain consciousness real quickly, but when I finally got where I could see, I saw these creatures standing over me. And I became hysterical instantly. I knocked him back and jumped away from him. They started towards me. I screamed and made threatening gestures, and they stopped and turned and left this room. They had gone to the right, so I ran down to the left. It was down a curving hallway. I ran by some other doors, and I came to another door, and I kind of got to control myself a little bit. I kind of panicked there for a minute, but I stopped, went in this room. It was a very strange room. You could see the stars projected on the walls, or maybe you could see them through maybe some kind of a viewing screen or something. I don't know. But there was a chair in the middle of this room that had some controls on it, and I went up to that and tried to see if I could figure a way to open a door or get out of there or something. Another being came in at that point. The first creatures that I saw were very, very different from us. They were short, you know, less than 5 feet in height. They had large, bulging craniums, kind of a chalky white look to their appearance, very large eyes. He took me out of that room that this was parked in, down a hallway to a smaller room where there were some other people like him, and they put me down on a table, and I struggled with him, and I was knocked out, made unconscious with a kind of an oxygen mask-like device. And the next thing I know, I wake up on the road.
Travis is 24 and lives with his family in Snowflake, Arizona. His reported close encounter took place on Wednesday, November 5th, 1975. He and 6 co-workers were thinning overgrowth in an area south of Heber.
It was a little after 6 in the evening. We were coming out of the woods here, up this road, and we saw this glow through the trees. And when we got in the opening here, we could see this object hovering over here, stopped the truck, and, you know, everybody, wow.
What did it look like? How big was it? How bright?
It was about 20 feet, 25 feet in diameter, about 8 or 10 feet thick. It was a disc-shaped object, glowing golden color.
The encounter took place in the Sitgreaves National Forest in eastern Arizona on the edge of the Mogollon Rim. It's a seismically active area with quartz in the bedrock, a suitable condition for luminous displays.
I could hear a sound when I got up closer, but it suddenly got louder and started to move in a kind of a wobbling motion, and that scared me, and I decided, you know, I'd better get out of there. And so I raised up to go, and I just felt a numbing shock, a kind of and blacked out. My co-workers, the guys in the truck, said they saw a beam come out of this craft and hit me in the head and the chest and knocked me backward.
This painting is one of several done by Travis's crew boss, Mike Rogers, who says he saw the beam strike Travis.
It just knocked him backwards through the air, like as if some sort of an explosion had gone off in front of him. It was that dramatic.
If you put an object, a foreign object, near it,
a person
or whatnot, yeah, and it changed the characteristics of the electric magnetic field in the vicinity of this thing, it could give, quote unquote, it would be possible for a discharge to occur. Now that would mean that a portion of the ball became unstable and not the whole ball.
After seeing Travis struck, the other crew members did not want to investigate anything. They left the area.
The next thing I knew, I was regaining consciousness, apparently inside the craft, and I was in a great deal of pain. I didn't just come to right, snap to. And I discovered these 3 creatures standing over me. I lashed out at them. I was backing away from them, and they came towards me. And I was really hysterical, and I screamed at them to get away from me, and they just stopped at one point there and just turned around and left the room, just all at once.
Dr. Persinger is a neurobiologist. He explains Travis's experience this way. The brain works on electronic principles, with the hippocampus being especially sensitive to stimulation. Any abnormal electrical activity, such as a luminous display, could alter memory and possibly result in hallucinations. But Travis was missing for 5 days as people searched the woods for him. On November 11th, Travis called his brother-in-law from this phone booth.
I found myself on the pavement outside of the town of Heber. I was laying beside the road, and when I looked up, I saw a craft hovering above the road there, and then it just shot straight up out of sight.
In the 5 days he was missing, Travis remembers only 2 hours, and those, he says, were aboard the spacecraft. Where was he the rest of the time?
A person with stimulation in this area could have amnesia for several days, but during that period he could undergo completely normal activity. And what he might do is, after 4 or 5 days of amnesia, he may wake up and suddenly find himself in an odd place. But during the amnesic event, he may have undergone more or less normal kinds of behaviors. He just wouldn't remember it.
There is no doubt Travis Walton believes he is telling the truth about what he experienced. He doesn't accept the Persinger-Brady theory.
Well, if they had evidence, more conclusive than what I, am able to gather from what happened to me, then I would be willing to accept it. It's just that I accept the beings in a craft explanation because it just works better, it fits better. It's so much, it's obvious that that's what it was to me.
What Dr. Persinger offers is a scientific alternative, a theory which may explain many of these mysterious sightings and encounters. But since scientists do deal in probabilities and not in absolutes, the most Dr. Persinger can say is that it's unlikely that Travis encountered a spacecraft. That possibility, however, cannot be totally dismissed. Some experts want more proof before they'll totally accept the theory of electrically charged luminous displays.
If we could definitely establish that they occur along fault lines or along rather definite regions of geologic activity, plate tectonic activity, then I'd be much more jumping up and down and saying this is probably it.